Hey everybody, Marc TekStack. We're here to talk about low-cost marketing tactics that you can start next week. I'm going to run through a few tools that we use on a weekly basis, and these are the same tools that we would recommend to any of our customers as well. Full disclosure, we're a software company, so I'm going to show you a little bit of TekStack, but actually be focusing most of our efforts on other tools that kind of complement CRM systems. All right, so let's start with probably the most effective way to generate cold interest in your products and services. Almost always, it has to start with defining a what we might call an ideal customer profile, an ICP. That ICP has to be really well defined. It's not just demographic fit, so it's not like size of company, industry, region type stuff. There's also got to be like a technographic piece. So if you're a software company that, like for example, we work with a lot of Microsoft tools, so we're not going to be very, I think, well received by companies running, G Suite or something like that. So that technographic information is also important, as well as psychographic information. So there's sometimes a little bit nuanced information related to companies and whether or not they have, ahead of the curve, behind the curve adoption of certain things. I mean, you'll know your market, but really do a really good job defining your ICP. Once you have that ideal customer profile and you know who your buyers are, probably the most important thing is getting them into a CRM type system. For us, obviously we're CRM, so in this case, we would have contact information, and those contacts are related to accounts. And here's an example of contacts that I have, 3,900 that don't have profile for LinkedIn or phone. I'm going to show you how to get that information in a quick second. And typically what you want to do is get as much good information as you can into your CRM so that you can start marketing to them. And once you start marketing to them, you pretty much want to try to automate as much as you can. And I'm not talking about generic emails and all that kind of stuff. You typically want to hit people across multiple channels in tight bursts. So what's more effective is not throwing out an automated email without any personalization, and then like 3 days later, send another email without personalization. What would be more effective is one of two methods. One, either integrating your channels. So basically, if you send an email, make sure you land a voicemail and a LinkedIn touch within a very short amount of time. And then you hit them with an email again in 2 days. That subsequent email is more likely to get received and opened and maybe replied because your persistence 2 days prior across multiple channels. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to get all that kind of data in your system, and then talk a little bit about the type of content that you might want to use to kind of reach out to prospects. So I gave you an example here. Here's contacts. I don't have LinkedIn profiles or business phone numbers. You can easily export that information, dump it out. So I'll have a sheet that provides that information in a flat file or CSV file. First tool I'm going to show you is actually a tool called Clay. Basically, Clay is an enrichment tool. So what I can do is take that flat file that I just exported that's missing all of my enriched contact information. I'll pick the Excel file, not the CSV file. So take the CSV file, I'll add it to actually a blank table. And so what it's going to do is bring all that data into a blank table. At this point, what you can do is, my goal here is to find phone numbers and find LinkedIn profiles. Okay, so to find the phone number, basically what I want to do is just do what's called an enrichment. So I'm going to add an enrichment, and I'm going to say add mobile phone number. And then basically what Clay is going to do is use a credit system. It's going to use all of its data sources to do its best to match the contact information that I have there. So in this case, I have the full name, the company that person works at, the email. That's probably all you need to get mobile phone number. You can get EMEA, APAC, and North American phone numbers. The other thing you can try to get is LinkedIn information. So I would want to get the LinkedIn profile. Probably, let's going to pick the cheapest one here. Let's try these guys. And here, interesting. I can do phone number with this plugin as well. And this would allow me, this is the input. I don't want to use that. Acquired, okay, company data and personal data. And I'm going to search on do I have full name in here? Full name. Okay. And so you can basically enrich or choose the data you want to run. So this will give you the LinkedIn information. I'm not going to bother running it, but this will go in and get the LinkedIn profiles for those contacts. Now, once you have those phone numbers and LinkedIn profiles, basically what you're going to do is just suck it back into your CRM, and then we'll go to the next step. So all we're doing here is sucking in all the appropriate contact data. Now, if you don't have enough contact data, you got to kind of build up your database a little bit. Now, one of the tools that are out there, so everybody's familiar with LinkedIn, obviously. LinkedIn has a tool called Sales Navigator. Oh, shoot, I just shut it. Sales Navigator. And Sales Navigator allows you to do filters. So if I wanted to find, let's start with the lead filter. It's a little bit easier. If I wanted to find CFOs in a specific industry, so I'm going to look for current job title. I'm going to go Chief Finance Officer. Okay, and I'm going to pick an industry. I'm going to pick IT services. Okay, and I'm going to pick a geography here. Let's just say New York City. Nice tight list. So I'm going to get quite a few 567 results. And now with LinkedIn, it's great that you're getting the name, company, chief financial officer. But what you probably want to do is get the email address and maybe enrich that information a little bit further. So there's a tool out there that plugs right in called Full Enrich. So I just click export to Full Enrich. Basically what it's going to do is scrape the search results and going to provide whatever you ask it to. So in this case, the email and or the phone number. I'm just going to ask for the email in this case. And then you can just export and enrich. So again, what that's going to do is give you that flat file. That flat file you would import into your CRM system, which sets you up to be able to use your CRM or outbound sequence, whatever machine you want to use to do that outreach, do that targeted outreach. So that's a little bit, we talked about Clay, Full Enrich, two different systems that you can use to enrich contact data and or find contacts that exist in your ICP. Now, what do you do with it from there? Well, there's a few things. So we talked a little bit about sequence engines. So here's TekStack. We have a sequence engine. I defined a sequence here. So you basically wanted to hit all the contacts that recently visited our website. These are known contacts that visit our website. So for that, you need a marketing automation tool, which we have. So in this case, I have basically a widget on the website, some script. And when somebody I know comes to the site, so this is somebody who's converted on the site, they come to the site, I can get notified and I can do something, with that kind of event or that trigger. So in this case, I just want to follow up on some people that have visited in the last little while. So I happened this is recent page views, started with 40 people, and I fired out an auto email, a manual email, and a LinkedIn task. So that is kind of that outbound. You can add phone call in here. You can add LinkedIn touches. You can have fully automated emails, all manual emails, whatever. So that's the nature of sequencing. I think everybody's familiar with that. The next thing that's really cool that we're using is a tool called Dripify. There's other tools like Walaxy and others. This allows you to actually create a campaign. So if I wanted to create a new campaign, I need to add leads. So in this case, you can do it by using a LinkedIn Sales Navigator search. So for example, if I wanted to use this search query that we already used for the CFOs, I just put the URL. The thing about LinkedIn Sales Navigator is all the search query parameters are actually in the URL. And so I found, again, 567. Okay, this is CFOs in New York. I'm going to create that list. And now I can decide what I want to do with it. So I can create a sequence. They have templates. So I'm going to select this lead generation template. It's going to start with send an invite. You can personalize your message. And then if you don't accept within 5 days, you can do a follow, view profile 5 days after that. And if there's no action after 20 days, you go into the sequence. Or if it's accepted, you can do a skill endorsement and then customize your message, customize your message, customize your message into sequence. So this is another kind of sequence engine, but this one lives in LinkedIn. So what you could actually do is have your email sequences running, your LinkedIn sequences running. Actually, this tool will allow you to also email, but it uses your Gmail account. And if you're, anyways, there's a bunch of stuff around emailing right now. I would kind of be careful emailing out of a system where you don't necessarily control the DMARC, DKIM, SPF kind of settings. But they do have an email capability. I just prefer not to use their email capability. I use our email capability because we have more control over all the SPF stuff, all the spoofing stuff. So anyways, you create your sequence and then it runs, and then you can just monitor how your campaigns are going. So in any given day, they throttle. So what you want to do with outbound is throttle. Want to do here, you want to throttle it. You don't want to fire a million things at once. It's just going to shut down your email, or in this case, shut down your LinkedIn profile. So you need to stay below the radar. But this kind of throttles things automatically for you, and you can kind of track your progress here. So I'm doing pretty good on a couple of these campaigns. Not so great at this one, but you can play with that. Really good tool. Now, if you want, you can combine that capability. So we talked about email. We talked about finding data. We talked about email. We talked about LinkedIn, automated LinkedIn campaigns. If you don't have the capacity to do any calling, a really simple, old school, you can see how old this tool is. Old school method could be to drop voicemails. So a voicemail drop. So we use a tool called Call Multiplier. And so what I can do is load up, so here in this case, 825 members. So that's contacts. You need phone numbers, obviously, which is where the Clay phone number thing came from. You load them into a list. You record the voicemail. Obviously, it's not personalized voicemail in this case. Nothing fancy here. So you just do a, hey, it's Mark from TekStack. Yeah, you don't have to go, hi, Bob. Hey, it's Mark from TekStack. So you just do a generic message and drop the voicemail. So if you coordinate the LinkedIn, the email, and the voicemail drops, in 20 minutes a day, you can be, reaching 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people if you wanted to. I would probably try to keep it to 20, 30 people a day entering into these sequences, because as time goes on, you could have 100, 200, 300 people running per day as you start piling on top of the previous sequences. So these are just great tools that you can use. They're very low cost. I can't remember how much this thing is. It's like, I think 7 cents a message. This thing's like $60 a month. Clay is 100, maybe $100 a month. Sales Navigator is $100. I think. So we're probably talking here a stack of around $400 to $500, including the Dripify thing, and then whatever sequence engine you're going to use. Fairly cost effectively, you can get a lot of targeted messaging out. Now, with B2B, you're out there and you have no idea if you're getting anything back, no response or a very low response. How do you know people are coming back to you, right? Well, if they don't convert on your website, meaning if they come to your website and they don't fill out a form, at which point you would probably know who they are. If you're using a marketing automation tool, from that point forward, you know everything about your visitor. But if they don't convert on your website, there are still some ways to figure out who's visiting your site. Now, these tools, I'm not going to endorse one tool over another. There's a bunch of them out there, like Warmly and a bunch of other ones. This is the one I'm showing you here is the cheapest one I could find. It's $100 a month. So if I look in April, here we're on the 3rd day of April. It's identified 4 visitors, but let's see how many actual visitors we've had. 228. Yeah, it's probably not a unique user, so call it 150. So it's saying that 4 people came to our site. It's more likely numbers closer to 150. So it doesn't identify everybody. There's a bunch of reasons for that. And when it does try to identify them, usually wrong. So it's using a bunch of stuff. It's using IP address. It's using social profile information and cookies. This individual client, customer, that's legit. These guys have no idea. I have a feeling that we don't sell to dancing instructors. We don't sell to medical centers or energy groups. Most likely, these are people who have the same IP address. So maybe they live in an apartment building where an IP address is shared. Maybe it's the spouse of somebody who's in our market. These tools are not that reliable. And this is a cheap one. Even the expensive ones are not that reliable, because I've certainly compared all of them. But that it becomes an option. So if you look at my previous months here, back in March, what do we do for time? Okay, 18 minutes, lots of time. Back in March, fills in a little bit nicer. This is legit. Legit. So I'm, again, it's only getting maybe 1 in 20 visitors. For every 10 visitors it identifies, I'd say maybe 2 to 3 are accurate. But then you can do the really nosy, creepy, hey, you wouldn't say, hey, I saw you on our website, but you would know that somebody came back and is responding. So maybe you just do a little reach out to them, something a bit more personalized. With this tool, I can see, specifically, how long people are visiting. And this is actually the husband of an employee of ours. So I know that it's not him. It's actually, again, same situation. Didn't identify the right person. So anyways, these tools exist too. Another $150. So what did we get through here? We talked about cleaning data. We talked about ICP, cleaning data, using Clay, or getting LinkedIn full and rich information from a Sales Navigator search. We talked about Dripify as a tool to automate LinkedIn outreach. And we talked about voicemail drops. So here, basically, we've done no real effort, maybe 20 minutes a day, and you're getting word out there. And probably the most important part, again, is the ICP and making sure you have a message. So there's a whole art to crafting what the emails look like, how you reach out. It's probably for another day. Some stuff that works. There's some really good people on LinkedIn you can follow to figure that out. But hoping that this maybe provides some ideas. So if you're out there and you have limited sales capacity, or if you're a seller and you don't have as much time as you want to prospect, these give you some options that are relatively low cost. And what I mean by low cost, there's no ads that we're running. We're not doing anything overly expensive here. Maybe the last thing I'll leave you with is just talking about LinkedIn and just creating some social presence. It probably would mean a lot to start building, if you've got a lot of domain understanding in your industry, and I think just post every week. The best posts are usually the ones that get the most play, or the slightly personal posts. On vacation, picture with your kids, your wife, whatever, husband. Those things do really well. If you don't do something like that, I would recommend just to post no images, no links. Certainly, if you add links, it's going to impact your distribution. If you look at my typical distribution, I'm not prolific. I've got almost 5,000 followers. If I look at my posts, I'll show you some examples that might be interesting. So here's one, 300 impressions, not a good post for me. My average would be around 1,000 impressions, liked from about seven people. Basically, you're kind of limited. LinkedIn is basically a monetized platform now, and so they kind of limit some of your distribution. So what I find even more effective is to comment. So spend 10 minutes a day, build up a network. You can automate a lot of that as well. Don't focus on the company page so much, because LinkedIn doesn't actually do a lot with company pages. Try to build up your own brand, and the best way to do it is just comment on other people's stuff, like their stuff, add comments. That will create visibility for you. Make sure that your profile does have a link back to what you're pitching. So, I wouldn't do anything like book an appointment or anything like that, because you'll just get people selling to you. But visit my website, or you might have a landing page you want them to go to, or a link tree, or whatever. Do something like that. But if you do want to magnify your post, probably the best way to do it and the cheapest way to do it is to write a post. So here's one I wrote with the intended purpose of distributing it through a paid ad strategy. So I wrote this post about what TekStack's all about. I used some picture with my co-founder, 71 likes, 81,000 impressions. So how did I go from 226 impressions, 531 impressions, 317 impressions to 81,000 impressions? I paid for it. In this case, I paid about $600. And I was able to tell LinkedIn exactly who I wanted it to go to. So what LinkedIn allows you to do is target audiences. So in this case, we've had website visitor retargeting, company page retargeting, and LinkedIn allows you to build an audience on a contact list. So back when I showed you that contact list and I was looking for phone numbers on LinkedIn profiles, you can take that exact list, the LinkedIn profile you need the first, last, company name, and LinkedIn profile. So this is why you want the LinkedIn profiles in your CRM. You can export that, upload it into LinkedIn, and build a contact list. LinkedIn will match that audience, do its best. Like 80% of it will match. And then you can specifically target ads to those people. So now we have email, voicemail drop, LinkedIn Connect, and now LinkedIn ads. And basically, you can target that to your contact list. And this, in my case, got 81,000 impressions got a couple leads out of it for $600. You're not going to beat that. Way cheaper than display ads, way cheaper than Google search. So again, another option out there. It doesn't do organic stuff on LinkedIn, but this is by far, in my experience, the cheapest way to build up brand awareness on LinkedIn. Very inexpensive. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Any questions, give us a holler, but hope there's some value out of this.